Welcome to Friday Takeaway. I'm Nadia Hassan, he's Sulhi Azman. It is the 20th of May and we are actually almost at the end of that month. And you know, people are still wondering, right, whether to, that old saying, right, sell in May and go away. But there have been some interesting spots. And so just to recap what's actually happened in the week, it's of course still AGM season, as you can tell if you've been not paying for your lunch, especially if you're a proxy shareholder. The Monday is Happy Teachers Day. Sorry, excuse me.
Okay.
Just went a bit of a slip. Tuesday is Felder Global Ventures. It has a new strategy under a new CEO. We'll hope it's one that meets approvals. And then, of course, on Wednesday, PM Najib says that high-speed rail MOU will be signed in July. So, and then, of course, last week, Petronas announced first quarter numbers, and man, it was not pretty.
Yeah, I mean, revenue and net profit were down because as they grapple with the low oil prices, prolonged one, basically. And of course, we have Thursday, our Bank Negara, Malaysia, you know, under the helm of the new governor, Datuk Muhammad bin Ibrahim, maintains the OPR steady at 3.25%.
We also had the tragic, okay, it's not even a crash yet because there was signs that there was debris, then there wasn't debris, and as actually we went to recording, there was apparently debris. 66 people, including passengers and crew, all feared gone. It's also been an interesting week for Apple, actually, after that really bad earnings numbers. Warren Buffett, who actually doesn't like tech stocks, by the way, he likes stocks like Cokes and trains. He actually bought a huge stake into Apple. Funny, considering Carl Icahn, the other activist investor, also decided to go out. But yeah, they bought a stake in Uber's Chinese equivalent, Didi, which I will not try and pronounce. And Tim Cook made the first time he visited to India. It's an interesting thing. But just to see how the actually market kind of goes, KLCI actually closed down about 5 points to 1629 points today. It was green in the earlier part of the day, didn't manage to maintain. CPI data announced today was 2.1% in April, moderated a little bit from the 2.6% they saw in March. If you look at a weekly basis, no difference. Sell and may go away, flat. 1629 points recorded last Friday, the 13th.
Yes, of course, if you look at the regional shares, all green over today, you know, as the financial market shows sign of stabilizing this week, as investors expect the US, you know, this very Janet Yellen to increase the interest rate in anticipation of, you know, in sometimes in July.
Yeah, exactly. So the funny thing about this, right, and this will affect us quite a bit, we are interested in how she talks about the minutes, and this is how much people actually scan it. She actually said the word June six times in the thing. So I suppose she's trying to subliminally drill into you to get ready. And most people say don't expect one hike, expect two hikes. Because the economic numbers are not bad, but they're not great. I think she's just prepping people to kind of be ready. And, you know, because of that, that spooked quite a few of us, especially, and it didn't help with the currency either because the ringgit didn't have a good week. The US dollar actually strengthened and the yen actually weakened this week as well.
Yes, of course. If you look at the Japanese Nikkei 225, it was up 90 points or 0.54% to close at 16,736 points. Hong Kong Hang Seng Index was up by 158 points. China CSI 300 is up 16 points or 0.5% to close at 3,078 points. And if you look at the economic development, Nadia, moving forward to the OPR, you know, it was maintained at 3.25%, and Bank Negara believes that the stance is still accommodative and supportive of economic activity.
Exactly. So it was expected, let's put it this way. The first Q GDP, the numbers, they weren't bad.
I mean, moderately expanded.
I'll put it into context. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So because of that, you do expect the OPR to kind of be around this way. They actually kept their targets of 4 to 4.5% for 2016. No big change there. Of course, this kind of stuff doesn't really move markets, but it gives a little bit of comfort. But RHB Research, CIMB Research all said, yeah, 3.25, that's the way to go. MIDF decided to pull a slate and be contrary and said that they think BNM will actually cut OPR by 25 basis points.
And this will leave the OPR at 3% by the end of the year. And MIDF research said that this cut will be in line with the global monetary policy direction, which is expansionary in nature. And of course, let's not forget that we still have 3 more monetary policies to go, which is going to be in July, September, and November, where Datuk Muhammad Ibrahim will unleash, you know, or will not unleash, but you know, but will.
You make it sound like he's ready. You know, he's some kind of Bond villain that wants to unleash his plan. He's not. He looks like a very nice man.
He is.
We'll have to see whether or not he makes his mark before we move on to other stuff. Brent crude traded at 48.57. That was actually one of the reasons why the US dollar was so strong. In a way, again, it's good for us and not really good for us. It's going to be an interesting one. They think that oil, especially for Acting Oil Minister Kuwait Anas Al Saleh, because of course the previous one. And in terms, of course, that made us sad. Another air crash, another aviation disaster. EgyptAir flight MS-840 went missing yesterday. Yesterday,
Yes.
actually, a lot of news then come out between Paris and Cairo. Francois Hollande came out and says, we believed it's gone, we believe it's crashed. They have yet to find debris, up until, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that they found it as we went in. This has caused a lot of questions. Never mind the least, of course, where the plane is, what the debris is. It hasn't stopped people going, is it terrorism? Is it pilot error? Because the plane it was on, an A320, is considered a workhorse. Actually, AirAsia, their fleet, the short-haul fleet, are all A320s.
Yes, correct. And of course, Greece defense minister says that flight MS-804 made sharp turns and plunged, according to him, into the Mediterranean Sea. And of course, I think we have, as you mentioned earlier, we have these cases where the Malaysian flights, MH17,
well,
370
that
QZ.
we understand the feeling, because we
Yep.
still have one plane that's actually
Still
not gone.
missing.
Our thoughts, of course, go out to all the families.
Correct.
It made people a little nervous. Uncertainty always makes people nervous, and it's also made the question about, whether it's safe to fly. And CNN, by the way, has come up with an article saying that statistic-wise, yes, you're more likely to be hit by a car
Right.
than fall out of the sky. But I think these kinds of accidents are just so obvious that you
Yes.
can't help but panic.
And it's even unwarranted. We saw what happened when Malaysia Airlines, when the flights we had a double whammy and it
Yeah, I
cost
know.
us stock
Statistically,
price.
it was ludicrous.
Yes.
Nobody actually, it couldn't happen, and yet it did. It
did.
was so sad. But anyway, we don't know. Our hearts still go out. We have to figure out how this goes. But again, they haven't even found the full story yet.
Correct.
And finally, just to say about, we don't know how to feel about this one. I kind of feel slightly happy. Datuk Seri Nazir Razak has returned to work as CIMB Chairman. They said he's done no wrongdoing, and he's been on a voluntary leave of absence, which of course has made people, quite, well, I don't know, it made them question him.
Yes, of course. And people were questioning about the fund that he received, $7 million into his banking account,
Yeah.
and he transferred to UMNO politicians, allegedly, of course.
Yeah.
And apparently, CIMB Bank has said that he is cleared of any wrongdoing and he, can return to work. And in fact, shareholders are also, maintaining their views on CIMB chairman.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the faith that people have
Yes.
when it comes to him, and we'll have to see. That's why we're uncertain. Because these kind of things tend to hang around like a bad smell.
It is,
So we
yes.
have to see when it gets rid of it. Just to wrap up what's actually happening next week, AGM season, of course, does continue. Bumi Armada will be interesting because they have had a few failed deals, and the oil as well. Lafarge, IGB Corp, Malaysian Bulk Carriers, KUB. KUB, of course, is a little small investment company. We'll see how that kind of goes. And key economic data: Japan's foreign trade, Singapore's industrial production index, Japan's CPI, Taiwan's GDP. And of course, talking about Japan, they have to decide, by the way, in the next couple of weeks whether or not they're going to go through their next tax hike that could massively impact consumer sentiment. Right?
Yep.
Interesting. So anyway, that's all that we have for this week. If you want more, of course, the new issue of The Edge is actually out tomorrow. Of course, The Edge, you can always pick up The Edge Financial Daily to tell you over. In the meantime, I'm Nadia Hassan. He's Sulhi Azman. Have a good weekend, guys.